Greetings, I'm glad you're here. Welcome once again to the Godly Playroom here at Christ Lutheran Church. And we have come to an ending here in our story. We've come to the ending of the stories that we often call the Old Testament, or those that were given to us in Hebrew. And so this is an ending story. But as we're going to hear soon, all endings have new beginnings. So watch. This is a little piece of the desert. It is so important in our Bible stories that we just keep a little piece of the desert here in our room and carry it with us when we need it. We know that the desert is a wild and changing place, always moving and shifting and changing. Even old pathways look brand new in the desert, because the mountains blow down into the valleys and the valleys up into the mountains. It's easy to lose your way because things shift and change. This is the city of Jerusalem, and the people of God had grown there from the time of King David. And then here is the temple that King Solomon built. Here are the people of God. They had come to recognize that God's presence was with them in the temple. But they had also come to believe that that was the only place they could experience the mystery of God's presence, was in the temple. And the people of God also believed that these walls around Jerusalem could protect them from everything. And then the Assyrians came, and the Assyrians fought with the people of God. And it was a hard time. Some even starved in the city. But the Assyrians went away. And then the Babylonians came, and they did not go away. They burned the temple, and they tore down the walls around the city. And they took the people of God, except for a very few, away in chains. The people of God had to do everything that the Babylonian soldiers told them to do. They had to walk when the soldiers told them to go. They could only eat along the way whenever the Babylonian soldiers gave them food. They looked back at their burning city, and they wondered if they would ever see it again. They sang sad songs and hung their harps on the weeping willow trees. For the people of God, well, they were in exile. They kept moving closer to the land of Babylon. And it was a hard, slow journey. Finally, they came near to the city of Babylon, and there, the king in Babylon allowed the people to live life relatively normally. Some set up little shops, and they began to live life as they had once known. But when they would say their prayers, they would turned their bodies to face the city of Jerusalem because they began to think that that's where God's presence was. But as they prayed together in community and listened to one another's prayers, they began to feel the mystery of God's presence among them. God was in this place too. Now everyone in Babylon was surprised when the king of Persia came and took Babylon for himself. Now, this new king of Persia allowed the people of God to return if they wanted. The first group, well, they returned with the prophet Nehemiah. And that is the group that began to rebuild the temple. And then another group, they returned to Jerusalem with the prophet Ezra. And it was this group that began to rebuild the walls around the city once again. But there were some from among the people of God that had recognized God's presence in this place too, that decided not to go back because God was here too. And they were no longer in exile. But they made their home in this faraway place. I wonder what you like best about this story. I wonder what's the most important part about this story? What's the most important thing here? I wonder what part of this story is especially about you. What part of it really makes you think about something in your life? I wonder if there's anything in this story we could just take away and still have all that we need. Well, you might want to take some time today to think more about this story, or maybe draw a picture or paint a picture or talk with your friends and family that is listening to this story along with you. You might want to think more about this. I also want to let you know that the writings from the prophets came out of this time. And during Advent, we'll hear from these prophets like Jeremiah and Isaiah. They came out of this time in the history of the people of God when they were in exile in Babylon. It's good to see you, and I hope to see you soon, especially in person. Join us for Godly Play on Sunday mornings at 9:15, and for our Christmas Eve service, which will be especially for children and families at 4 o'clock on Christmas Eve, December 24th. We'll see you soon. Take care.